Do you know this feeling? That sensation when it seems you're doing everything right. Striving towards the light, working on yourself, overcoming your weaknesses. You read wise books, listen to inspiring talks, perhaps even follow spiritual practices. In moments of clarity, you feel strong, confident, almost unshakable. You think, this is it. I finally found my footing. I can handle this. You feel this inner stability and perhaps even start to believe you've reached a level where falls are no longer possible, or at least not so devastating. But then, it happens. A lapse, a mistake, a return to an old habit you thought was left behind, an unkind word spoken in anger, a moment of weakness when you give in to temptation. It doesn't matter how big or small this mistake is in the eyes of the world or in your own judgment. The key thing is that it occurs, and that's when it arrives. That feeling. What do you feel in that moment? Disappointment? Yes. Shame? Definitely. But something deeper, more painful. It's the darkness that envelops you. It's the feeling of complete helplessness, the collapse of all your efforts. It's an inner storm of self-recrimination. How could I? Zarenya, I knew I wasn't good enough. All my efforts were in vain. You start digging into yourself, searching for reasons, scolding and blaming yourself without mercy. And in this moment, in this dark abyss, you perhaps try to salvage the situation with your own strength. You think, okay, I messed up, but I'll pull myself together right now. I'll come up with a plan. I'll do this and that, make amends, fix the consequences, and then everything will be okay again. Do you see this vicious cycle? First, you believe in your own strength, then you fall, then you plunge into dark sorrow from the fall, and then, spurred on by the sorrow and the desire to be rid of it, you try to save yourself again through your own efforts. And the darker, the more hopeless your sorrow is in that moment, the more intensely you torment yourself, the more obvious one thing becomes. Even when you thought you were relying on something greater, deep down you were hoping in yourself. You place too much burden on the shoulders of your self, your ego, your limited human strength, and too little on that boundless power that is truly capable of sustaining you. Your sorrow is so bitter and devoid of comfort precisely because it is fueled by wounded pride, not by a true striving for the light. You grieve not so much over having strayed from the source, but over the destruction of your own self-constructed image of being unshakable and virtuous. This is a harsh but necessary truth. This is precisely what I would like to bring to the attention of those who consider themselves already quite spiritual or advanced. You might be one of them. You try to be better, to avoid mistakes, and when things go well, you feel confident. But when the inevitable fall happens, you agonize and languish in that internal prison of self-flagellation. You seek peace, but you do not find it. And do you know where this agony comes from? It is born not from deep sorrow over what you've done, but from self-love, from that very pride that cannot reconcile itself with imperfection. And under the influence of the self-love, you might run to someone you think can free you from this burden, a spiritual mentor, a therapist, a friend. But you do this not out of a desire to purify yourself and restore connection with the source, but to get rid of your own discomfort so that someone can lift the burden of yourself from you. And here lies another subtle trap that many mistake for virtue: excessive, crushing sorrow after a mistake or lapse. Many think, look how I'm suffering. This means I'm genuinely repenting and truly striving for better. But often this sorrow is just another mask of pride and self-conceit. Why? Because it's based on surprise. Surprise that you fell. This surprise is only possible when you expected not to fall, when you believed in your own strength so much that the possibility of error seemed something extraordinary. You thought you were something significant. You placed a burden on yourself that only a boundless power can bear, and you hoped to handle it yourself. And when life, that great teacher, shows you your true limitations, your fragility through a fall, you are astonished, as if you've encountered something completely unexpected. You become agitated and discouraged because you see that very idol, the image of yourself on which you placed all your hopes and aspirations, brought low. This idol has crashed, and the world built upon it is shaking. But this does not happen with a humble heart. A heart that does not rely on itself, that knows its absolute human frailty, that places all its hope on the one source. When it falls, it is not excessively astonished. Yes, it feels the weight. It grieves because it knows it has strayed from the light, that it has committed an act that does not correspond to its true nature, that it may have hurt others or itself, that it has offended the source of all good. But this sorrow is different. It is not dark and hopeless. It is dissolved by the knowledge, yes, this happened. It happened because of my human weakness, but more importantly because of the weakness of my reliance on Him, that it. And therefore, instead of drowning in self-recrimination, such a heart does the opposite. It strengthens its disbelief in itself, its absolute dependence on the source. It strives to deepen and intensify its humble reliance. This is the key point. This doesn't mean stopping the fight. On the contrary, a person with humble reliance hates the base passions and habits that led to the fall. They see them as enemies, but they pursue these enemies not alone, not relying only on their own will. They arm themselves with fervent reliance on the source, God, higher power, whatever you call it, and with the greatest courage and determination, they enter this battle, knowing that victory is not in their strength, but in the strength of the one they rely on. They calmly and peacefully undertake the work of repentance, not as punishment from a cruel judge, but as a natural consequence of a choice made in a moment of weakness, as an opportunity to cleanse themselves and restore the connection. And they do this immediately after the fall, without delay, without excessively tormenting themselves in self-centered sorrow, but with one desire, to quickly wash away the stain that offended the source, and to receive new strength, not their own, but its, through sincere repentance and turning back. So do you see the difference? Dark, desperate sorrow after a fall is a sign of pride and self-reliance. Peaceful, though painful, sorrow after a fall is a sign of humility and reliance on the source. The first paralyzes, floods with darkness, pushing toward futile attempts to save oneself. The second leads to humility, deepening reliance, accepting help, and continuing the struggle with a new strength that does not come from you. Why is it so important to understand this deeply and steadfastly? Because all strength, all true power, all energy capable of defeating our inner enemies, doubt, fear, passions, habits that lead us away from our true essence, is born exclusively from the combination of disbelief in ourselves and reliance on the source. This is the foundation. Without it, any of your efforts, however good they may seem, are doomed. Therefore, my friend, my reader, embrace this knowledge not just as an idea, but as a deep inner conviction. Root it in your heart. Know firmly, as an axiom, that neither your natural talents, nor acquired skills, nor your gifts, nor knowledge of all the world's wise texts, nor even long years dedicated to self-improvement or spiritual service, none of this, taken by itself, guarantees you true victory, true following of your higher calling, true fulfillment of the source's will. Why? Because every time you are to do something good, overcome a difficulty, accept a challenge, go through suffering, at every such turn in life, your heart must be filled with a special help, not your own, but its. The source must pour strength into you so that you can accomplish what needs to be done. Remember the words, "Without me, you can do nothing." This is not a metaphor. It is the reality of your spiritual existence. And therefore, throughout your life, every day, every hour, every minute, you must hold within you an unwavering feeling, a deepest conviction. Under no circumstances, for no reason, under the influence of no thought, are you allowed to rely entirely on yourself. Your hope must be only in the source. And add this to your understanding of reliance on the source. For Him, nothing is impossible. Nothing. It makes no difference how strong your inner enemies are. Whether they are old, entrenched habits or new, creeping weaknesses, for the source, victory over them is as easy as victory over the most insignificant ones. Perhaps your soul is currently burdened with mistakes. Perhaps you feel mired in every conceivable imperfection. Perhaps you feel stained as deeply as you can imagine. And perhaps no matter how much you try, how much effort you put in, how many practices and methods you've tried, you just cannot break free from this cycle. You cannot gain a foothold in virtue, even the slightest. On the contrary, it seems that, with every step you sink even deeper into darkness. If this sounds like you, listen. Despite all this, in no way weaken your reliance on the source. In no way turn away from him, it. Do not abandon your spiritual efforts, your practices, your attempts. Keep fighting. Fight with yourself, with your passions, with your pride, with your disbelief in self. Fight with the enemies, with the forces that try to lead you away from the light. Fight with all the courage and tireless effort you are capable of. Why? Because in this invisible inner warfare, in this battle for yourself, only the one who stops fighting and relying loses. Only that one. The source never abandons those who fight under his Shirit's banner, even if sometimes it allows us to receive wounds. These wounds are not punishment, but lessons in humility, lessons in deepening reliance. Therefore fight, yielding no ground, because the entire essence, the entire victory, is precisely in this steadfast struggle, accompanied by reliance. And the remedy for the wounds inflicted, and the help for victory over enemies, they are always ready with the source. He will provide them in due time, in its perfect order, to those who seek him, and have firm hope in him, And in the hour when you might be completely despairing of waiting, you will see your proud enemies disappear, how what seemed invincible crumbles, because the strong are despoiled from making battle. This is a quote from a specific tradition, adapt to a more general idea of enemies losing power, but mere disbelief in self and reliance on the source, necessary as they are not enough. If they remain in us alone, without accompaniment, we will not only fail to achieve victory, but on the contrary, we may sink into even greater delusion or passivity. Imagine a ship that knows where to draw energy from, reliance, and acknowledges the fragility of its hull, disbelief in self, but does not know how to manage the sails and rudder. It will either stand still or drift aimlessly. Therefore, along with these fundamental principles, we must introduce into our lives a special kind of practices, or, in modern terms, training spiritual exercises. This is not just passive waiting for help, but actively preparing ourselves to receive this help, to know how to use it. Among these exercises, the exercises of the mind and will are paramount. Training the mind. Gaining the inner light of discernment. Your mind needs to be freed from ignorance, from the fog of delusions. This ignorance is an enemy that darkens your inner vision, preventing you from seeing the truth as it is. Truth is the genuine object and goal of your mind's striving. For it to be bright, clear, and capable of clearly discerning what truly helps to purify the soul from all that is base and adorn it with virtues, it needs to be trained. How to achieve this clarity of mind? There are two main ways closely related. The first way, the most necessary, prayer, or more broadly, sincere connection to the source. This is not just a set of words. It is a state of the heart. It is a connection. It is a plea for light. You must implore the higher power, the spirit of light, to pour its divine light into your heart. And be assured, it will certainly do so if you sincerely strive towards the one source of all good. If your eagerness to act in accordance with its highest will in all things is true, and if you are ready to humbly accept guidance, not just someone's opinion, but the advice of experienced souls, those who have walked this path before you, who have deep spiritual understanding, and not do anything important without such inquiry or inner alignment with the wisdom available to you. This is not giving up responsibility. It is recognizing that you need a guide in this labyrinth of illusions. The second way, constant contemplation of things, or, in other words, deep reflection and study of wisdom. This means not taking everything at face value, not judging by first impressions or by what the world shouts. You must constantly gaze into the essence of things, delve into their knowledge, to clearly see what is truly good for your soul and what is bad. And judge this not as your fleeting feeling, your emotions or the world with its superficial values judges, but as right reason judges, illuminated by the light of the source, as the true word of inspired writings and wise teachers speaks. When such contemplation of things is deep and true, it will inevitably lead you to clear understanding. You will understand that you must wholeheartedly despise and consider vain and false everything that the blind world, mired in illusions, loves and seeks in every way. You will see that the world's honor, pleasures, and wealth are nothing but dust, vanity, and death for the soul, distracting it from true life. Reproach and slander, with which the world pursues those who walk their own path, actually bring you true glory in the eyes of the source, and worldly sorrows, true joy, deep peace and confidence in the rightness of your path. Forgiving enemies and doing them good is not weakness, but true magnanimity, one of the greatest traits of divine likeness, a manifestation of the source's boundless love through you. One who despises the world in the sense of its false values shows more inner strength and authority than one who rules over entire empires, being a slave to their passions and worldly attachments. Willing obedience, not blind but thoughtful, based on trust in wisdom or a higher will, is an action that requires and demonstrates more courage and firmness of spirit than subjecting mighty rulers. Humble self-knowledge, knowing your weakness, your limitations, but also your divine potential, should be preferred over all other, the highest worldly knowledge. To conquer and put to death your negative inclinations and desires, however insignificant they may seem at first glance, is worthy of greater praise before eternity than taking impregnable fortresses, defeating mighty armies, and even, I dare say, than performing external miracles or raising the dead. Because victory over yourself is victory in the main battle of your life. Training the will, gaining authority over reactions. The reason why we so often judge things incorrectly, the reason why we chase after the false and turn away from what is truly valuable, lies in the fact that we do not look into the depth of things. We do not try to see their essence. Instead, we allow our desires and aversions to immediately seize us at the very first glance, at the first impression based on appearance. This instantaneous like or dislike, want or don't want, anticipates the work of the mind, takes possession of it, and darkens it. Because of this, the mind cannot judge rightly as it should, cannot see the truth. So my listener, if you want this trap of false perception not to have power over your mind, be extremely vigilant with yourself. When you see something with your eyes or imagine something in your mind, be it a person, a situation, an idea, a thing, keep your desires under control. Do not allow yourself immediately, from the first moment, either to be passionately attached to this thing or to feel a strong aversion to it. Pause, consider it detachedly as much as possible with only a pure, unengaged mind. In such a state, not being darkened by instant passion, desire, or aversion, your mind is in its natural, free, and pure state, and only then is it capable of knowing the truth, of penetrating into the depth of the thing. And do you know what you will often see there? You will often discover that evil hides under a deceptively attractive exterior, and good is hidden under an unpleasant, repulsive appearance. As, for example, true freedom can hide under the appearance of obedience, and slavery under the appearance of permissiveness. But if you allow your desire to step forward, if you immediately love or hate something without giving the mind a chance to understand it, then your mind will not be able to know this thing correctly, as it should. Why? Because this preliminary inclination, or more precisely, this passion, having entered within you, becomes a wall between your mind and the reality of the thing. It darkens the mind, forcing it to think about the thing according to the passion, that is, differently than it is in reality. And this, in turn, further strengthens the original inclination. And the more this passion intensifies, the more strongly you love or hate a thing, the more strongly it darkens your mind in relation to it, until finally it obscures it completely. And then the passion for this thing increases to the limit. It seems to you the most desirable or the most hated thing in the world, even if in reality it has no such significance. This is how it happens. When you do not observe this rule, to hold back desire from loving or hating a thing until it is understood, both these powers of the soul, the mind, and the will begin to work incorrectly. They fall into a vicious circle, sinking deeper and deeper from darkness into darkness, from one error to another. Therefore, beloved listener, be fully attentive. Be cautious not to love or hate anything out of passion before you have had time to consider the thing properly. Consider it in the light of reason, illuminated by the right word of divine scriptures or wise texts leading to truth, by the light of grace, that very help from the source that you ask for in prayer, and with the help of discernment, study of wisdom and advice from experienced mentors. Do this so as not to make a mistake, so as not to take what is truly good for bad and what is truly bad for good. This mistake happens to us constantly. Sometimes we even commit actions that in themselves seem good and holy, but due to circumstances, because they were done at the wrong time, in the wrong place, or to an excessive degree, they cause considerable harm both to ourselves and to others. And the experience of life confirms this. How many misfortunes have happened to people from seemingly commendable and good deeds, committed without due discernment and control over their desires? Let's summarize and take a step forward. The path of transformation, the path to gaining true strength and freedom, is not the path of becoming an unshakable idol built on your own will and pride. It is a path of humility, a path of reliance, and a path of conscious work on your inner world. Here are 4 fundamental principles that have emerged from our reflection, 4 pillars of your inner transformation that you need to integrate into your life. The first principle: embrace your humanity. Cultivate humble self-distrust. This is not passivity, but a wise acknowledgement of fact. You are human. You are limited. You are not all-powerful. Your strengths are finite. Your will can weaken. Your feelings can deceive you. Falls are inevitable on this path. Stop fighting this truth. Accepting your weakness is not defeat. It is the first step towards gaining true strength, which lies beyond your limitations. When you stop pretending to be omnipotent, you release energy that you were spending on maintaining that illusion. Example in life: instead of drowning in self-recrimination after a mistake, thinking, "I'm weak, I'll never succeed," kidney swing, try saying to yourself, "Yes, I fell. This is painful, but it shows me that I cannot walk this path alone. My own strength is not enough." And that's okay. That's just being human. The second principle: completely redirect your hope. Cultivate unwavering reliance. Consciously, actively, every minute, every day. Remember that all true strength comes from the source. Your task is not to be strong, but to be a channel for this power, to be connected to it. Your reliance is not passive waiting for a miracle, but active connection to a boundless resource. This means constantly returning your inner gaze to the source, asking for its help, trusting its wisdom and its order of things, even when you don't understand it. Example in life: facing a daunting task or a seemingly insurmountable problem, instead of shrinking in fear and trying to calculate every option yourself, take a breath and mentally or aloud turn to the source. I don't know how to handle this. My strength and understanding are not enough. I ask for your help, your wisdom, your strength. I trust you. The third principle: train your inner vision. Develop true discernment of mind. Learn to see beyond the surface. Do not trust first impressions and the judgments of the world. Actively seek truth by looking into the essence of things. Use 2 tools for this: connection to the source through prayer, meditation for light, and the study of wisdom, reading inspiring texts, communicating with wise people, deep reflection. Constantly question your automatic reactions and beliefs, asking, is this true? Does it lead me towards the light? Does it align with my higher nature or lower passions? Example in life: you see a person whom the world considers a failure. Your first superficial judgment based on worldly values might be dismissive. Stop. Look deeper. Ask for the light of discernment. Perhaps this person has found inner peace and wisdom that those who chase external success will never attain. Perhaps their failure in the eyes of the world is their greatest achievement on the spiritual path. The fourth principle: gain authority over your reactions. Discipline your will through pause. This is the practical application of the principle of discernment. When something happens, an external event, an internal thought, a strong feeling, create a pause. Do not react automatically. Do not let desire or aversion immediately seize you and darken your mind. In this moment of pause, you can apply the principle of discernment. Principle 3. Ask questions, seek the deeper truth, turn to the source, and only after this conscious process, choose your response, your action. This gives you authority over your reactions, not the other way around. This requires constant training, like a muscle. Example in life, someone says something hurtful or provoking. The first reaction is anger, a desire to snap back, to defend yourself. Instead of immediately lashing out, take a deep breath. Hold it for a moment. In this pause, ask yourself, what is behind these words? What is my true goal in this situation? To protect my ego or to maintain inner peace and dignity? How would wisdom respond? And only then calmly choose the words or action that aligns with your higher self, not your wounded ego. Perhaps you are now thinking, this is too difficult. It requires constant control, constant tension. It requires constant awareness and constant practice. At first, it may feel like an effort, but with each time, with each fall after which you return to these principles, with each moment of conscious pause before reacting, with each act of humble reliance, you become stronger not in your own strength, but in your connection with the power. You gain ease because you stop carrying an unbearable burden. You gain peace because you stop fighting alone. You gain clarity because your mind ceases to be a slave to your passions. Do not fear falls. They are part of the path. They are valuable lessons, showing you where your reliance is not yet deep enough, where your discernment is not yet clear, where your will is not yet disciplined. The main thing is not to stay down after a fall. The main thing is to use it as an opportunity to strengthen your reliance, deepen your humility, and renew your efforts to train your mind and will, but no longer alone, but in union with the one who is the source of all strength. You are capable of this, not because you are so strong, but because the power you can lean on is boundless. Your task is merely to open yourself to it, trust it, and cooperate with it, using the wisdom and discipline given to you. Start today, right now, with the smallest thing, perhaps with the next time you feel down after a mistake. Instead of diving into the abyss of self-recrimination, take a breath and say, I accept this weakness, and I give it to you, source of strength. Teach me. Or the next time you want to react sharply, pause, breathe, and ask, what is true here? How can I act by following the light? This is the path. This is the adventure. It is not instant transformation, but the gradual unfolding of your true potential. You are not alone in this struggle. Help is always near, if only you sincerely open your heart and learn to rely on it. Stand up, breathe, rely, discern, act consciously, and watch your life transform, step by step, fall by fall, but each time rising with a new strength, not your own, but its.